Remember!
Remember!
Remember Fallujah!
Remember Fallujah!
Remember Fallujah!
Remember Fallujah!
Remember Baghdad!
Remember Baghdad!
Remember Baghdad!
Remember Baghdad!
Remember the terrorists!
Remember their terrorists!
Remember the terrorists!
Remember the terrorists!
George Bush terrorists!
George Bush terrorists!
George Bush terrorists!
George Bush terrorists!
Tony Blair terrorist!
Tony Blair terrorists!
Tony Blair terrorist!
Tony Blair terrorists!
John Howard terrorist!
John Howard terrorists!
John Howard terrorist!
John Howard terrorists!
Remember!
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 Remember Afghanistan!
Remember Afghanistan!
Remember Kabul!
Remember Kabul!
Remember Iraq!
Remember Iraq!
Remember!
Remember!
Remember the murderers! Remember the murderers! George Bush murderer!
George Bush murderer!
Tony Blair murderer!
Tony Blair murderer!
John Howard murderer!
John Howard murderer!
Remember!
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 Right, if we line up here, we get our, I guess in front of the building here.
Everyone come out here, please. It would be great. I wanted to touch on one other issue. And I don't know about you, but there's one thing that angers me more than anything is when I read the hypocritical comments when a homemade Hamas rocket or a rocket from the Gaza goes into Israel, and the world official public opinion from the United States, New Zealand and everybody else are quick to condemn. Yet under the presidency of the great liberal Obama, they have been firing missiles, drone missiles, on a weekly basis into Pakistan, assassinating people at will, wiping out entire families, and they treat this operation, they treat their missiles as somehow benign or righteous. The missiles of an oppressed people kept in a prison camp of 1 million people, the missiles that they make at home to try to give some symbol of resistance to that imprisonment are condemned, but the missiles of the empire somehow are different. The morality that they proclaim is a disgusting, hypocritical morality that has no place in the there's no place in humanity. There is no place to allow these people carry out those sort of actions. We have seen it again and again and again. They are alienating the people, but they don't care about the people. Winning the hearts and minds is a lie. The recent offensive in Afghanistan, which they proclaimed to take a farming area, a fairly densely populated farming area, wasn't really much of a city, largely a rural farming area in Afghanistan. They advertised for 2 weeks beforehand to make sure that the opposition had plenty of time to get out of the road if they could. They are so keen to engage in a fight that they announce as long as possible beforehand in the hope that the opposition will go away. They have been getting the fights taken to them again and again across Afghanistan. The war is getting wider, the casualties are getting higher, and there is no prospect of the Empire's troops bringing peace to that country. But they are locked into a strategy of trying to do that at any cost, which means at the cost of the Afghan people. So every time we hear the condemnation of the oppressed who resist occupation, occupation, we always got to remember what it is that drives the oppressed to resist, what it is that has caused that resistance, and what it is the murder, occupation, and enforcement of a form of modern slavery on entire peoples. The people of the Gaza, 1 million people are trapped. They cannot leave. They can't even receive basic foodstuffs and medicines. They cannot get hospital care. They are trapped and they are tortured on a daily basis by the Israeli regime, which is backed up by this government, billions of dollars in military and other aid, year after year after year. 40 years or more of occupation, backed up by billions of dollars that the US has poured into it. Don't be fooled by minor disagreements over settlement policy. The fundamental fact is, as Joe Biden, the US Vice President, said when they poked him in the nose he still is proud, he says, that he is a Zionist, that he believes in that cause, he believes in the maintenance of that state in the final analysis, and they will continue to arm and finance that state, and that state will continue to impose its apartheid-like conditions on the people in the West Bank and Gaza. We've got to support, we've got to maintain this type of solidarity. We're going to be ready to protest in the future. We're going to be ready to mark these types of anniversaries, because it's important that at no stage that the empire thinks it can do what it does without resistance, without people all over the world saying, no, we've had enough. These wars of empire have got to end, and the troops should come home. They should come home now. Troops home now! 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 Troops home now!
Troops home now!
Mike, are these people